So when the clock strikes 12, it becomes the witching hour, or the 13th hour. So 13 represents the death and the resurrection, or the rebirth. This is exactly why we have 13 Illuminati bloodlines. And of course, 13 is also sacred to the Freemasons, which is why the Illuminati USA seal is covered in the number 13. You'll find the 13 everywhere, which is why our dollar bill is also covered in the sacred number of 13. And that's exactly why America was born and rebirthed upon the 13 colonies, thus coming from the Bloody Virgin of Virginia. And of course, 13 is sacred to witchcraft and paganism, which is exactly why a witch's coven has 13 members, or even 9 members. And I'll be getting into the number 9 a little later. So now you'll understand why the president sits in the sacred circle with the magic coven of 13. And that's why in videos like Lady Gaga, you'll find that she sits in the center as 13 surrounded by the 12, exactly like Jesus 13, who is surrounded by the 12 helpers, or the 12 disciples, which represents the sun in the center of the zodiac of the 12 houses. And of course you'll find 12 or 13 months in the Hebrew calendar. And I'm sure most everyone is well aware of Friday the 13th. Jason, the Slayer, who comes back from death and is resurrected and comes back to kill. And of course, Friday the 13th Part 2 was released on May 1st, the day of the Illuminati, on the night of the Black Moon. And that's why Jason is really just a code name for Jesus. And of course, Friday the 13th is connected to the Knights Templar, but I will be getting into that a little later in the video. And I'm sure that many people know that Tupac Shakur was sacrificed and killed on Friday the 13th. And of course, it was on the night of the Black Moon of Death. So now you'll understand the Festival of Coachella in 2012, held on Friday the 13th, where they brought Tupac Shakur back from the dead. They resurrected him. And of course he's wearing the sacred cross of resurrection, because he was reborn and rebirthed and returned from the dead. So now you know why the festival began just before midnight and ended during the 13th hour on Friday the 13th. So the 13th hour begins when the clock strikes 12, which is a time of death and rebirth. Thus, it is a time that can represent both the sun and the moon, both midnight and noon. So now you'll understand why they used to have gunfights at high noon, when the sun is the most high. It's a type of sun sacrifice. So this is why the Illuminati will hold their sacrifices during midnight or high noon, exactly like Dealey Plaza or Deity Lay sacrificing the king, like they did with JFK on Bloody Elm Street at high noon, which of course is the 13th hour. Just like when they held the press conference for Lee Harvey Oswald at midnight during the 13th hour. And that's why they shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald just before midnight, and he died during the 13th hour. And if you've watched my past videos, you'll know that the incident of the Titanic happened during the 13th hour, or the witching hour. And of course, it occurred on the night of the Black Moon of Death. And by the way, not only was Tupac killed during the 13th hour on the night of the Black Moon, will you believe it? So was Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. He was killed during the witching hour on the 13th hour. And of course, he was killed on the night of the Black Moon of Death. And by the way, Michael Jackson was also killed during the 13th hour at high noon. And yes, he was also sacrificed on the night of the Black Moon of Death. And of course they held his memorial on 7/7, 13 days after his death. And of course there's many more 13s associated with Michael Jackson. And I'm sure you're familiar with Sharon Tate. She was also surrounded by the number 13. And of course, she was slayed and sacrificed during the 13th hour, just after midnight. And by the way, Manson was on death row in cell 13. So not only was Sharon Tate sacrificed during the 13th hour, she was also killed on the night of the Black Moon of Death. And for those of you that got to watch my series on the Roman moon goddess, Princess Diana, you'll know that I revealed that she was killed during the 13th hour, the witching hour. And not only that, she was killed on the 13th pillar, on the 13th hour and the 31st day. And of course, she was killed on the night of the Black Moon of Death. And of course, she was killed by the monarch, or the monarchy. And would you believe that they made a video about her and released it on the night of the Black Moon? And even the film The Monarchy was released on the night of the Black Moon. So now you understand a little bit more about the 13th hour, or the witching hour. Which is why the witchcraft books of Harry Potter are released and held during the witching hour, during the 13th hour at midnight. And this is exactly why the video games that are satanic and full of witchcraft and bloody gore and slaying and killing that are made for kids are also released at midnight during the 13th hour, or the witching hour. So now I think you'll understand the significance of why The Dark Knight Rises was released at midnight during the 13th hour, and why there was a bloody slaying. And would you believe that Warner Brothers, that was also founded on the Black Moon, would release a 13-minute preview clip of The Dark Knight Rises? And by the way, if you're one of those who have apocalyptophobia and think the world is coming to an end because of the apocalypse, don't believe a word of it. It is just the Illuminati trying to scare the sheeple. Thus, the Mayan prophecy of 2012 is nothing but bullshit. It has absolutely nothing to do with reality. All it is symbolic symbolism of the 12 coming to an end and turning over to the reborn again from death, the resurrection from 12 to 13. So you see, it has nothing to do with the 12. It's all about the obsession of the Illuminati with the number 13. So let's get into the Illuminati symbolism that is found in The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, why do you think the killer, James Holmes, has red hair? And you'll hear people say it's because he was copying the Joker in this scene where he has red hair. But that's not the whole truth. You see, the truth is he's copying the Joker who has red hair. But why does the Joker have red hair? He has the red hair because he is about to commit a slaying. He is the red-capped killer. And if you've watched all of my videos in the past, you'll know that I revealed the Illuminati red-capped killer many times. It's always about the red hair. So just watch your Hollywood films and you'll see it's always about the red-capped killer. And of course, the Freemasonic order is related to the red-capped killer, or the red fez, the Phrygian red cap of death, the liberty cap, thus the red Phoenician fez that is dipped in blood. So you see, this is why the killers of the Knights Templar have the symbol of the red sacred cross, or the red X. thus the symbol of death. And this is exactly why we have the story of Jesus upon the cross of death and resurrection. The red bloody X or cross of the red blood sacrifice. So now you'll understand why the Knights Templar are associated with the red bloody cross and of course the Holy Grail, which is the cup that holds the sacred red blood, which is the sangriel, the royal blood. So now you see the connection with the Knights Templar and the royal blood cross of the Illuminati, which is why the Illuminati have what's called the Red Cross. Why? Because they deal with death. And of course they deal with blood, which is why they have you donate your blood for free as they turn around and make multi-millions from it. And that's why March is the Red Cross month. Because March is the red bloody god of Mars, thus Aries, the month of the Lamb of Sacrifice, which of course is when Jesus is sacrificed. And by the way, the Red Cross began on the night of the Black Moon of Death. So you see, the color red itself represents the red blood of the symbolic symbolism of death for the Illuminati. Which is why red represents the color of sacrifice. So colors are very important. White represents the virgin and black represents the death. But the color red represents the blood sacrifice. It is the highest degree, which is why there is a black belt. But the highest degree is actually the red belt. So that's why Darth Vader is all dressed in black. He represents death. But the Emperor represents the red blood sacrifice. He is the Most High. So yes, the Emperor or the leader is dressed in red. And it's the same with witchcraft and occultism. They wear the different color robes to signify their level. And the Most High Satanic High Priest is the one who's dressed in blood red. So you see, this is exactly why the High Satanic Priest or the Father Pope wears red. Does the devil wear red? Of course he does. This is exactly why the Pope dresses all in scarlet red, the red-capped killers. And remember, there's no real red devil. It's just symbolic symbolism the Illuminati used to scare the sheep. So without question, the color red represents the red blood sacrifice. It represents the Most High. So this is why the Illuminati symbolism of the red-capped killer or the red scarlet blood can be found in all of the Batman movies. So that's why James Holmes has the red-capped hair. Thus, he is the symbol of the Illuminati. He didn't do it. The Illuminati did it with the brainwashing, which is why they have him all dressed in scarlet red. So don't dismiss what I'm saying about the color red and sacrifice and the red-capped killers. This I can prove without question. I can prove this 1,000 times over, but I don't want to use too much time, so let's move on. So in The Dark Knight Rises, you'll see that it says it's always the darkest before dawn. You see, dawn is the time just before sunrise. It is the twilight, the color of red scarlet blood and purple. So this is why you'll see the symbolism of the red in twilight, thus the reason she has the red hair. So you see, this is why Dawn is the goddess of the morning. She's the goddess of twilight, which is why she's dressed in red, thus the scarlet red hair. She is the one dressed and robed in the saffron red. The goddess Dawn is also known as Eos, the goddess of twilight, the red-haired one, dressed all in red. Thus, she is also known as Aurora, the goddess with the red hair. And would you believe it, that the state of Colorado, the etymology, actually means the color of red, the color of the blood sacrifice.